Koma, and members of the research ethics committees who are present and who are going to be our facilitators. We have a colleague from National Council for Science and Technology, who is also going to be with us. We have the graduate coordinators and academic mentors, graduate students, ladies and gentlemen. I am very much honored to welcome you to this workshop on navigating research ethics early, and under the theme, Understanding Recs and Ethical Approval at Makerere University. This engagement comes at a critical time as Makerere University continues to strengthen research ethics and governance in line with national and international standards. And as a research-led institution, we recognize that the credibility, impact, and global standing of our research depends fundamentally on adherence to ethical principles and responsible conduct of research. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the key issues that has emerged from our recent engagements with the university is the need to engage our graduate students much earlier in their research journey on matters of ethics. Too often, ethical considerations are treated as a procedure requirement to be addressed late in the research process. This approach not only delays progress, but also undermines the quality and integrity of research outputs. And so this workshop has therefore been deliberately designed to support you, our graduate students, our coordinators, our mentors, to engage early on this particular issue. And so it aims to provide clarity on the principles of research ethics, the role of research ethical committees, and the process required to obtain ethical approval at Makerere University. Allow me to highlight three key messages that should guide your participation in this workshop. Number one, research ethics is foundational and not optional. It is central to the design, implementation, and dissemination of your research. And so ethical compliance is not merely about approval. It is about safeguarding the dignity, rights, and welfare of research participants while ensuring the credibility of your findings. Number two, early engagement is critical. What do I mean? That ethical considerations must be integrated at the proposal stage. So understanding when ethical approval is required and how to navigate the application process will save you time and enable you to conduct your research efficiently and responsibly. Third and last, you are not alone in this process. Makerere University has established structures to support you, including the research ethics committees, the Directorate of Graduate Training, and that of Research, Innovations, and Partnerships, and as, of course, National Council, which is also present in this webinar. So these structures exist to guide you and encourage you to make full use of them. Our distinguished participants, we are also pleased to have facilitators from our research ethics committees, which will be introduced shortly. The Directorate of Graduate Training, the Uganda National Council of Science and Technology. And I believe that this expertise will provide you with practical insights and guidance to navigate the ethical approval process effectively. As you engage in today's discussion, I encourage you to ask questions, seek clarifications, and reflect on how ethical considerations apply to your own research. The knowledge you gain here will not only support your academic journey, but also shape your development as responsible researchers. In line with our commitment as a university, we will continue to strengthen systems, build capacity, and promote a culture of ethical research that contributes meaningfully to national development and global knowledge. And with those few remarks, I do declare this workshop open and to invite our MC, that is Dr.
Hello all. Dear participants, I hope you are able to hear me after Professor Wamal has made a brief introductory remarks. Yes, my duty here this morning is to introduce the facilitators of this workshop. Professor Wamal has taken you through the introductory remarks about the importance of this workshop. So what I will do is, just to give you the brief bios of these facilitators. They are highly experienced people in the area of research ethics. And allow me share their bios so that you are able to see, but also be able to run through as fast as possible in the interest of time. I'm requesting for rights. If I can be given the rights. Dr. Mayende, do I have the rights to share? Or are you able to project?
Prof, yes. I have given you the rights. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, the document is not coming.
I may share what I have on my side and you can follow with
Maybe you can share what you are having.
May I be allowed to share, Dr. Mayende?
All right, thank you so much. I will start by giving a brief bio. Professor Amala has already given himself, has introduced himself as the director of the Directorate of Research in Partnerships. Of course, he's a member of the Habilitation Committee of Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, and he has really university and within that area. Can we now proceed to Professor Kikoma? Professor Kikoma Julius is a distinguished academic leader and a scholar of organizational psychology at Makerere University. He has a PhD from the University of Cape Town. He's the current director of the Directorate of Graduate Training, where he oversees doctoral induction, research methods, and so on. He has also served under various capacities in this university. Next, The next is facilitator is Dr. Kasim. Dr. Kasim is the Deputy Director General for Agriculture Technology Promotion at the National Agricultural Research Organization, that is NARO. He holds a PhD in plant biotechnology and has over 2 decades of experience in agricultural research, innovation, management, and technology transfer. He is the chairperson of the College of Agriculture and those committees. Then we have next is Dr. We have Helen. Helen Oporot is the Assistant Executive Secretary and Head of Division of Research, Management, and Quality Assurance at the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology. She provides strategic leadership in strengthening research, governance systems, and coordinating ethical review and oversight of research involving human and animal participants. Next is we have Professor Stella Nema, who is an associate professor in social and medical anthropology at the Department of Sociology and Anthropology School of Social Sciences, Makerere University. She is the chair of the Makerere University School of Social Sciences Research Ethics Committee. Then the next facilitator is Dr. Moses Ochan. Dr. Moses Ochan is the chair of the School of Biomedical Sciences Research and Ethics Committee. He is a lecturer of pharmacology and graduate coordinator at the Department of Pharmacology, Therapeutic School of Biomedical Sciences, College of Health Sciences, Makerere University. He is also president of the Uganda Pharmacological Society. Next. Yes, we have Dr. Paul Kutiabami is a senior lecturer in the Department of Pharmacy at Makerere University. He holds a master's in bioethics from Case Western University and a PhD in he's a PhD candidate in health sciences, that is bioethics at Makerere University. He completed bioethics fellowship at Johns Hopkins Institute, and he chairs the Makerere University School of Public Health Sciences Research and Ethics Committee. Okay. Yes, we have Professor Eddie Warakera, who lectures at Makerere University. He's also a visiting professor at Howest University in Belgium. He's a professor of social work, focusing on children and youth studies. He's the chairperson of the College of Business and Management Sciences Research Ethics Committee in the College of Cobham, what we refer to as College of Cobham, College of Business. Okay, he's also a member of a member of other committees. Then we have Professor Salazar. Professor Salazar is the first Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of academic affairs at Makerere University. She's a distinguished social scientist with a PhD in international health studies from Queen Margaret University, Scotland. She holds a master's in gender studies and a Bachelor of Arts in social sciences from Makerere University. Since joining Makerere University in 2003, she has made significant contributions as a lecturer, Dean of School of Women and Gender, Director of Institute of Gender and Development Studies. She has gone through so many leadership roles, and she's here this morning to talk about research ethics. Finally, I can say that the strength of graduate research lies not only in its findings, but in the ethical standards that guide its conduct. I've not introduced myself. I'm Professor Frederick Miodi from the College of Natural Sciences, but I'm also the chairperson of the Makerere University Writing Center. Thank you so much for listening to me. So those are the briefs about our facilitators this morning. And after that, we shall have, as per the program, we shall have the first presenter taking on the stage. Thank you.
Who is the first presenter?
The first presenter is Dr. Sadiq Kasim. Dr. Sadiq Kasim, you are welcome. Thank you.
Professor Muyodi, we may consider inviting Professor Julius Chikoma as a director and as per the program, and then Dr. Sadiq comes in next. Just information. Thank you very much. Oh, okay. Yep.
Oh, yes. You're welcome, Professor Kikoma.
Thank you very much. Just allow me to use the first 30 seconds to navigate this system. I think I have sharing powers, so I can share the screen. And okay, I hope that the screen can be seen. Just a minute as well. I want to see if I can also slideshow. I want to do the slideshow. Okay, looks it's not going to show. But anyhow, I hope I can, the slides can be seen. Maybe Dr. Mayende can attest to that, so that can,
Yes, I can see the slide. Okay, maybe you can go like that, though you could have clicked on just on the left, on the right hand bottom. There's a slideshow as well up there.
Dr. Mayende?
That one,
Dr.
yes.
Mayende?
Yes.
Dr. Mayende, yes, I want to pass on this information. As the presentations go on, participants to write there in the chat first, and then after that we shall respond to the questions. Of course, the facilitators may answer to some of the questions during as from the chats. But at the end of the presentation, we shall have an opportunity to for something like a Q&A, question and answer session, and a discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think now I have the microphone to make a small presentation, and as I've indicated, I have elected to discipline my talk around the topic I was given. I've elected to discipline my talk around some 3-4 slides that I've shared. And I'm very glad to be part of this convening this morning. And I actually thank Professor Wamala and the rest of the team for being able to actually bring this initiative to fruition, because it's very crucial, especially for my docket as the director of the Directorate of Graduate Training. I was requested to speak about the issue of building a culture of ethical research in graduate training at Makerere University. And as you will all know, or if you don't, I will definitely jog our memory. One of the vision and direction of Makerere University is to really be a research-intensive university. And given that direction, in the Makerere University policies, the question of ethical reviews, ethics is very much central to some of the indicators that are key to realizing that vision of being a research-led university. So ethical review boards and reviews of ethics are very foundational to us and are part of the university's commitment to operationalize Makerere University's strategic goal of a research-led university. And those goals and the indicators of a research-led university include very clear indicators of support. And one of the key support areas, as I've mentioned, is this question of supporting all researchers, whether seasoned or beginning researchers like the graduate students, to support them as they develop their research ideas, and to also fundamentally understand their responsibilities as researchers to the broader goal of doing responsive research. So the policies that have been identified either under graduate training or under research, the policy of research, they are all aimed at building that culture of support to enable researchers be responsible and responsive to the ethical needs of those that they are working with, of those that they are including in research, and generally the community that is involved in research. And as a university, we recognize that the entire research process that anyone undertakes while conducting research must be pursued within a broader context of understanding the contemporary knowledge that the research is focusing on, but also more importantly, that there must be good ethics, effective policy that are adequate and adequate resources and issues of international cooperation. So in order for us to understand what Makerere University's commitment is to this question of responsive research for both seasoned researchers and graduate students, allow me to speak about it from the context of the policy environment that we have here at Makerere University, and where we are responsible as the Directorate of Graduate Training as part of the Secretariat for the University Senate in coming up with policies that guide researchers, both seasoned and graduate students. And I will speak about them on two fronts. One, in terms of what is there in these policy guidelines for promoting ethical conduct of research at the university. But I will also speak around the issue of the specific policies and guidelines on professional standards for research. In terms of what we have in our guidelines and in our policy documents around the question of promoting ethical conduct of research, I will draw your attention to our policy on research, the research policy. And this research policy is found on our website. We have a section on Makerere University website where we have all policies. So that research policy will be found there, but also the specific sections that relate to graduate students have been extracted from there and included in our Bible for graduate students policy, which we call the Graduate Handbook of Policies, Guidelines, and Procedures, which was reviewed and revised in 2024. There is a section there in section 17.4.1, which really commits university in terms of making sure that all elements that support, all elements that help the researcher to understand what is provided for in terms of how researchers must conduct research responsibly, the university must, among other things, which are to do with the questions of ethics, institute review boards. And I'm glad that the lineup of the speakers on this occasion are members of the different ethical review boards that Makerere University has. And of course, that is responding to this particular commitment within our policy guidelines. And also, we are supposed to continuously review and come up with changes where needed, so that we are responsive to developments and emerging issues that have ethical implications in research and practice. As you will know, the research environment is so dynamic, and so you have to keep your ears to the ground. For us who are the custodians of policies, we must ensure that we keep on ground, ears to the ground, to see if there are issues that have ethical implications that must be revised. So that's part of the commitment. You can find it in the handbook, in the section that I've outlined there, but also you can find the same in the policy on the university website, among other policies that are there. There is also a section that is crucial again, along the same lines, as I said, this question of ethics, responsive research, and being able to ensure that the research you are doing will be fit for purpose, it is important to also understand it from another angle, that the questions of ethics are also a question of quality assurance. And we have a section on quality assurance on quality assurance, and a specific section that commits us to ensure ethical issues are also a quality issue. So section 19.1, which is on maintenance of high quality research and programs, there is that commitment that says that all students must have complementary responsibilities in the maintenance of academic standards and also in the creation of graduate programs and so on. So all this speak to what I'm saying, that the question of ethics, as Professor Mala and others who have actually spoken before me have reiterated, it is foundation, it's key, it's core to how professionally you are going to be molded into a responsible and responsive researcher. And the provision is in the policy and the guidelines of the graduates handbook are already pointing to the same. Again, continuing to look in the handbook for the specific issues that help us see how we are guided when it comes to ethical issues. There is also another section, 13.1, on the standards of research, professional standards of research. And here they cover a range of things: questions of honesty, questions of openness, questions of accountability, issues of conflict of interest, issues of responsibilities. As a researcher, you have responsibilities, not only in terms of your own interests as one who is conducting this work, but responsibilities beyond you that you carry as a researcher. Appropriateness of research funders. Again, you know, research is an industry, and it is important as a researcher to be aware that even though people are putting money for research to be conducted, it still has to be able to meet the standards, the ethical standards that actually my colleagues have spoken about, but also will speak more about those who are lined up. But more importantly, especially for the graduate students here, is we have a section on ethical approval, a section which really says that, you know, this question of ethics is a requirement. Being your work being approved by the ethics committee before you conduct the research is a requirement. And so it's important that you check out and be guided and know that if you don't go through the approval process, then it means that you are actually at fault, and you can be called to make sure you account for, you know, the responsibilities of going through the clearances. And in the handbook, we also highlight it very clearly that if your research has not gone through the ethical clearances and yet it is completed, you will not be able to be allowed to, you know, to defend and therefore proceed to graduation. So the parts in that handbook that speak to these questions of standards really lay out, you know, the issues that you need to follow, including questions of conduct, misconduct, as well as the question of compliance with copyright. This copyright issue, it becomes very, very important and also takes on new responsibility, or I mean new importance, now that we are in this age of artificial intelligence. And I will be speaking about artificial intelligence in another one of 2 slides ahead. But all that is telling you that as a researcher, you have to know your responsibilities and the requirement that you comply with guidelines that are provided. Again, fast forward, I should also say that apart from the policies that we have in the graduate handbook, in the research policy that I've already spoken about, We also have recently, the university has recently approved a policy on artificial intelligence adoption and implementation. And there are provisions there for you to follow when it comes to the use of AI. I'm sure my colleagues who are lined up here will definitely also, speak more about this issue. But for us as a Directorate of Graduate Training, we are charged with ensuring that, we make provisions within the policy guidelines in terms of how to guide graduate students in utilizing AI. The issue is that we are not saying, or the policy does not prohibit the use of AI. Rather, the policy is more about ensuring that the way AI is used must be in compliance with the provisions in the policy. And so I draw your attention to Section 8 on Section 8 on AI, which when you go and look through, you'll find that there's guidance, proper guidance as you are using AI for your research or in academic writing generally. There are issues of privacy. There are issues of bias and fairness. There are issues of transparency. There are issues of accountability. There are issues of autonomy. How much are you allowed to really come up with things that represent your own original thought, rather than thought that is just extracted from whatever is available. There are issues of security, informed consent, job displacement, misuse, and of course, questions of intellectual property. So, by and large, my role today and what I was asked to do is to try and help all of us to appreciate that if we are going to be a research-led university, institutionally, Makerere University, there have to be commitments in terms of guidelines, in terms of procedures, in terms of the policy environment that enables researchers to navigate the issues that concern ethics. And what I've done is really highlight what is provided for, but also call upon those who have come this morning to ensure that you really follow through and take advantage of this information that is being shared. And like others have said, please engage, be an active audience so that we can be able to appreciate the role and the value of ethics in our research. That way, we will be able to become responsible and responsive researchers and research users. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Professor Kikoma, for taking us through that. All right. So, I was wondering what was happening. Yes, thank you so much, Professor Kikoma, for taking us through that, through your role as Director of Graduate Studies and what you are doing and talking about the research policy, of course, as it speaks towards ethical, responsible research, ethical. Yes, now after that, the next facilitator on our program is supposed to be Dr. Kasim, Dr. Sadiq Kasim, but I can see from the chat that Mr. Daniel Waiswa is supposed to be presenting on behalf of Dr. Kasim, and is requesting for the rights. I hope Dr. Mayende, can you maybe give him the rights to present on behalf of Dr. Kasim?
Yes, I've promoted him. I promoted him.
So I can, we do Dr. Daniel Waiswa. You are so much welcome to this workshop, and you can come on board and give the presentation.
Thank you very much, Professor Muyodi. Thank you very much, Director, and also Dr. Mayende for granting me the permission to present this morning. Let me share my presentation. Let me share that. Okay. So, I hope I can now, the presentation can be seen.
Yes.
I can do a very brief introduction. I'm here at the Dr. Daniel Waiswa, who is a senior lecturer in the School of Forest, Environmental and Geographical Sciences here at Makerere University. I hold the Bachelor's of Science in Forestry, the MSc in Computer Science from Makerere University, and my PhD is in Biometrics and Geomatics from Virginia Tech in the United States. I serve as the graduate coordinator for the School of Forest, Environmental and Geographical Sciences. But I'm also the vice chair of the College of Agriculture and Environmental Science Committee, and I'll be making this presentation on behalf of the CAES-REC, having been asked by my chair, Dr. Sadiq Kasim, who is not available this morning. So briefly, when we were asked, we were asked to make a presentation on research ethics, what it is, why, and when it matters. And that's what I'll be speaking about in a few minutes. I know we have a number of presentations lined up, so I'll just do that as fast as possible to make sure that we have time saved for the next presentations. And I'm happy to start when Professor Chikoma has already described the research landscape and the policies that guide us. So I'll build on to that and take you through what we have. So I'll talk about research ethics in terms of what it is, research ethics, what it is, why it matters, and why we need to adhere to the ethical norms and standards in research. And finally, I'll say something about when ethical approval is required. From the this slide, we define ethics, and we say that ethics is derived from a Greek word, ethos, which basically refers to character or custom, and this is usually focused on what is considered good life or good action, and that it is a branch of philosophy that systematically studies, analyzes, and defines principles of what is right and wrong behavior, and as such, it helps to determine how individuals and societies should act. So, from the ethical point of view, from our understanding of ethics, we should be focused on more of what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior. So that is ethics in general. But what is research ethics in this case? So with research ethics, we are talking about a set of moral principles, rules, and guidelines that basically guide us in the planning, conduct, and reporting of research. And why the planning and conducting of research should be guided is that it has to be responsible, honest, and respectful. So the goal of research ethics is to protect the dignity, rights, and welfare of human participants or animal subjects while promoting scientific integrity and minimizing harm. That should be a key point which will be running across all the presentations, I believe, where we are talking about the protection of dignity, rights, and welfare of human participants or animal subjects when we are conducting research. There are a number of core principles of research ethics, and I'm happy that Professor Chikoma has talked about these in a way. They were setting the ball rolling. One is informed consent. So in our conduct of research, we have to ensure that the participants know what they are getting into before voluntarily agreeing to take part. So in there, it is required that you seek consent from the participants by letting them first of all know what they are to participate in. If since it's research, they need to know the purpose of the research, the methods you are going to use, what are the benefits, what are the risks, before they choose, and I have to emphasize, voluntarily agree, before they agree voluntarily to take part. That is the first principle of research ethics. The second is confidentiality and anonymity. And in this one, like it has been alluded to already, there has to be protection of privacy of the participants. And that includes the data and their identities. That has to be protected all the time. And in the next principle, one of the reasons we do that protection is to ensure that there is no harm caused to those participants. The third principle is the one of do no harm, and that is what we call the beneficency or non-maleficence principle. In all the research we do, we have to ensure that we minimize harm to our participants or subjects. We have to ensure that the risks are minimal and the benefits are high. So the risk versus benefit analysis should actually ensure that we have more benefits than risks. Some researches can actually be avoided. We don't need to exploit our participants or subjects when doing research. The other principle is the respect for autonomy, and this one comes in when somebody or a participant has agreed to be part of a study where we ensure, or it is as a researcher, you have to respect the autonomy of that participant by recognizing that that participant has the freedom to withdraw from the study you are carrying out at any time, and there is no penalty for that. There is freedom to withdraw from the study. The other principle is integrity and honesty, and this is what also Professor Chikoma mentioned. We need to be able to conduct our research in such a way that we don't get anywhere closer to fabricating, falsifying, or misrepresenting data and results. That is a very big crime in research. So we have to be of integrity and also exhibit honesty in the way we do the research. And also there is avoiding plagiarism, where we have to give credit to those who have done certain work, and that is usually exhibited through, like in our scientific writing, through using the citations, because that's not our original work. Then the last principle of research ethics is the one of justice and fairness, where we ensure that participants are selected fairly and that the benefits and burdens of research are distributed equitably, avoiding exploitation of vulnerable groups. There are a number of vulnerable groups who some researchers take advantage of, and that is not acceptable in the conduct of ethical research. Those are the principles of research that we have to keep remembering as we go through the research journey. Now, what does this bring out? It is that through our knowledge and understanding of research ethics, we try to ensure or to create the assurance that studies involving humans and animals are conducted in a way that is respectful, safe, and responsible. But I've highlighted there that these days, as much as we are talking about humans, and I'll mention that again, we always talk of protecting humans and animals as our research participants or subjects. But these days, the scope is broader. We are actually nearly looking at all research. And that is where we look at the environment in totality. Forgive me for the bias from being in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, but the environment is the totality of all of us and our surroundings. So that is now where we are. So we ensure through research ethics that the studies in our environment are carried out in a way that is respectful, safe, and responsible. We also, through that, ensure that researchers do not cross any lines and that participants' rights are protected. And we also always, through the knowledge and understanding of research ethics, ensure that researchers are always aware and they think about the concept of informed consent, confidentiality, and minimizing harm, which are some of the core principles of research ethics. So why does research ethics matter? It protects participants, communities, and environments. It helps validate findings. We said that valid research is ethical research. If you engage in fraudulent or unethical methods, then you end up with unreliable data, and those are the findings which are always quashed. So if you want to have valid research, then you have to be ethical in your conduct of research. We also say that ethical research helps maintain public trust. And that is very important because most of the research we do is supported by using public resources, and as such we must be able to maintain that public trust. Otherwise, we shall not have resources to do the research. I've mentioned here, and this is the trend now, that in the past, all research, or when you write a proposal for funding, or when you want to publish research, it happens that ethical approval is mandatory. So the issues where, the cases where you would do research without ethical approval, I would say are nearly long gone. We have to accept and appreciate why we need to do this ethical or go through ethical approval. And that is to ensure that we do ethical research. Ethical research or research ethics helps also prevent misconduct. And here we are looking at navigating complex decisions and avoiding things like plagiarism, fabrication, falsification of data. And as a way of concluding on this particular aspect, why research ethics matters, we are saying that ethics ensures research is done responsibly, respectfully, and for the greater good of mankind. So ethical norms, following the ethical norms and standards, helps us to promote the aims of research by creating knowledge, truth, and avoidance of error. It promotes values essential to collaborative work. There is a trust, basically accountability, mutual respect, and fairness Those are very important aspects in research. It also enables us have accountability to the public who provide us with the funds. And there is also public research for support, which is based on the quality and integrity of research. If the work we do as researchers is not trusted, then we may not be able to get funding to do such work. And other important moral and social values like social responsibility, human rights, animal welfare, compliance with the law, public health and safety are also anchored on following ethical norms and standards. So when I looked at, with my team, when we looked at the issue of when ethical approval is required, we looked at one saying that we looked at it in terms of the timing, and we were saying, well, ethical approval is required before you start on
Dr.
your work. And usually,
Dr.
Yes.
Waiswa, yes, brief information. Kindly make sure that you make us save some time, but also make sure that we don't lose important points because we are running short of time. You have used about already your time, but you can make sure that you summarize. Make sure that we don't lose anything. Please, thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me summarize it in 2 minutes. So when it came to ethical approval, I just want to mention that you need to apply for this, and somebody will talk about it maybe when you are going to start your work. That process will be known. But the most important issue is when, what kind of research is required in this. And I'm saying here that nearly all research now is tending to require ethical approval because there is a component of humans as participants or animals as subjects or the environment. So all work now, all research tends to require that approval. And that is where I wanted to end it by saying that thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, but any research that deals with the human subjects or the environment, which I described as entirely who we are and our surroundings, what we are and our surroundings, will require us to go through the ethical approval process. Thank you very much. I hand back to you, Professor Muyodi.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Waiswa, for taking us through that presentation regarding the College of Agric Ethics Committee. You have given us what it requires, what it takes for us, for those researchers to go through in order for their research to be ethical enough. So I hope you will keep online so that later you may be requested to answer a few questions or comments or additions here and there. So thank you for now. I want now to take this opportunity to invite Dr. Helen Opolot from the Uganda National Council of Science and Technology to come and give us a presentation, talk about what she has for us, the skills and experiences in regards to the topics of discussion today. So Dr. Helen Opolot, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and thank you all for logging into the call. I would like to be allowed to share the slides. Okay, I hope you are able to have a look at the slides. Could you please confirm?
Yes, please. At least I can see the presentation. I guess others are.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting the UNCST to give this important call to our prestigious colleagues at the most prestigious university in the region of Africa. And today I would like to thank all the previous speakers because what you have talked about is what UNCST is promoting. So today I'm going to talk about the research misconduct and its implication towards strengthening research integrity in our academic institutions. So for those who are not really familiar with the UNCST was established in 1990 by an act of parliament, and we are supervised by the Minister for Science, Technology and Innovation, who is under the Office of the President, and our mandate includes advising government on issues of science, technology and innovation, and also ensuring that research conducted in Uganda meets ethical and regulatory standards. And I'm glad the previous speakers are promoting that at the university. So as you are aware, universities play a critical role as centers of knowledge, generation and innovation. However, this role can only be sustained when research is conducted with integrity. And when misconduct occurs, it undermines the trust, damages credibility, and compromises the quality of research outputs. So this slide introduces us to the concept of research misconduct, which refers to the serious violation of research ethics and standard. It goes beyond minor mistakes, and it involves intentional actions that compromise the integrity of research and undermines the credibility of our academic work. So the core forms of misconduct are commonly referred to as the FFPs, which is fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. These forms of plagiarism and falsification and fabrication have been mentioned by the previous speakers, but they represent the most serious breaches of research integrity and are usually recognized across institutions and regulatory frameworks. So we shall go into details of fabrication. So fabrication is making up data or results, and this involves reporting information that was never actually collected, which completely undermines the validity of our research. Then falsification involves manipulating research processes or results, and this could include altering data, omitting key findings, or changing methods to procedure desired for the outcome of the researcher. Then plagiarism is the unaccredited use of somebody else's work or ideas, and this violates the intellectual property rights as mentioned by previous speakers, and it undermines the academic honesty. So beyond the FFPs, we have other questionable practices, which include ghost authorship, which is listing individuals or authors who did not contribute meaningfully to the writing. And then there is lack of ethical approval. This has been emphasized. So you need to really get approval from the REG or ICOC if you're involved in animal research, UNCST for final clearance, and for those conducting clinical trials, you proceed to NDA for a certificate. And then there is selective reporting, which is only representing favorable results while ignoring or hiding negative findings. And all these practices compromise the integrity, transparency, and credibility of research. So what are the key factors that contribute to research misconduct in academic setting? These are the publish or perish pressure that the faculty or even students get. So researchers often face that intense pressure to publish frequently or to secure a career progression. And I'm sure in order for you to become a professor, you have to have so many publications. So that pressure, but which can sometimes lead to cutting corners or even have unethical practices. Then there is competition for funding and promotion, which plays a major role in that individuals are pushed to prioritize results over integrity. Then the limited ethics training, where many researchers, especially the early careers, are not receiving adequate training in research ethics and responsible conduct of research. So I would like to thank Professor Wamala and your team for having organized this workshop today, so that our graduate students and faculty can know more about the research regulatory systems and research ethics practices for university and even research in order for for somebody to graduate, as mentioned by Professor Chikomo in his remarks. Then the weak supervision for students is another significant factor, and without proper mentorship and guidance, students may make poor decisions or unknowingly engage in research misconduct. Inadequate institutional enforcement allows misconduct to persist when policies exist but are not enforced, or when accountability systems are weak. It creates the environment where unethical behavior can go unchecked. And I would like to thank the university for having come up with all those policies that were given to us by the previous speakers, and I hope you can adhere to those policies. So this slide highlights the broader consequences of research misconduct on academic integrity and institutional credibility. So if research misconduct is done, damages the reputation of universities. So when cases of misconduct emerge, they not only affect the individual researchers, but also tarnish the image of the entire institution, reducing it to standing both locally and internationally. Second, it reduces the credibility of the academic. So if degrees are associated with questionable research practices, the value and trustworthiness of those qualifications undermined. Then misconduct weakens trust in scholarly outputs, with these stakeholders, including our policymakers, funders, the public. They all begin to question whether research findings are reliable and evidence-based, especially, for example, in the health sector or agriculture, where evidence is needed to improve systems. Then it also slows innovation. When research integrity is compromised, it leads to flawed data, wasted resources, and delayed scientific progress, ultimately affecting national development, because we conduct research for national development. Then, so how research misconduct affects the quality of teaching and development for future researchers is that students may adopt unethical practices, thinking that probably if my supervisor is doing that, they might perceive it as acceptable, hence normalizing it as it's okay. If my supervisor is doing it, then I can also do it. But I urge you, the lecturers, to do the right thing. You have the policies, you have these calls where we are going to be talking about these ethical issues. So please do the right thing so that you mentor your students very well. Then research misconduct contributes to weak mentorship and supervision systems. So if lecturers and supervisors themselves don't uphold strong ethical standards, they will fail to guide our students well, which will ultimately result in two poorly trained researchers who will graduate and may lack critical skills in ethics and data integrity, affecting the overall quality of research output and capacity in the country. Then another consequence of research misconduct is the distortion of knowledge. So misconduct leads to invalid or misleading research findings. When data is fabricated, falsified, or poorly handled, the results no longer reflect reality, making the research unreliable and potentially harmful. It also misguides future research. As you are aware, researchers often build on existing studies. So if the foundation is flawed, it leads to wasted resources, duplication of errors, and misguided scientific direction. It also undermines the evidence-based scholarship. As you're also aware, decisions, clinical practices, and innovations rely on credible evidence. When the evidence is compromised, it weakens the entire system of knowledge generation and application. So this slide speaks to how research misconduct directly affects funding opportunities and partnerships. It can lead to loss of research grants because funding agencies require strict adherence to ethical standards. Any violation can result in withdrawal of funding, termination of projects, and in some cases, blacklisting of institutions and researchers. I know Professor Wamala has a case already on his table about this, but I think that will be handled by the university. It also leads to reduced donor and partner confidence. Donors and the collaborators rely on trust and accountability. So when misconduct occurs, it raises concerns about transparency, financial integrity, and reliability of research outputs. It also results in limited international collaboration opportunity. Institutions with history of misconduct may be excluded from global research networks or even forming a consortium with one of those institutions that are related to research misconduct, which are really critical for capacity building, innovation for academic institutions like Makerere University. So with all those policies that you have, please make sure that you employ your faculty and students to avoid misconduct of research. So another critical consequence of research misconduct is the direct risk to human participants. This has been spoken to by the previous speaker, but what I can say is that it can lead to exposure to harm due to ethical compliance when protocols are not properly followed, risks are not adequately assessed. Participants may face physical, psychological, and social harm. They also, if they lack informed consent, like the previous speaker said, participants may not know about their rights, which is very important, and it will violate the autonomy and ability for them to make voluntary decisions. And most importantly, misconduct may result in violation of the fundamental ethical principles. The previous speaker has also alluded to this, where we have respect for persons, ignoring their autonomy, their rights to make the informed decisions. Then we have beneficence, failing to minimize the harm and maximizing benefits, and then the unfair selection and treatment of participants. These principles are foundational and important for research ethics and must be upheld. Then what are the implications on the legal and professional aspects? So misconduct can lead to retraction of publication when a research is found to be unethical and unreliable. Journals will withdraw the work, which may damage both the researcher and the institution where the researcher is from. They might result in disciplinary action or dismissal for a lecturer or a student who is involved in research misconduct. The institution like Makerere may impose sanctions ranging from warnings, suspension, or even termination of employment and academic positions by those who are involved in research misconduct. Then there are legal implications. In some cases, misconduct can lead to illegal action, especially where there is fraud, misuse of funds, or even harm to research participants. May it result also in loss of academic credibility. Once trust is broken, it is really extremely difficult to rebuild. The researcher may lose future opportunities for funding, publication, and even collaboration. So this slide speaks to implications for our country, and it highlights that misconduct weakens compliance with national guidelines and regulations. So frameworks developed by UNCST and other regulatory bodies like the NDA, UNRO should be adhered to. And when compliance is low, the entire regulatory system becomes less effective. Then it also affects the effectiveness of our research ethics committees and ICOCs and the national regulatory authorities. So if researchers bypass or undermine the ethical regulatory processes, it limits the ability for these bodies to ensure quality, safety, and accountability through monitoring, because we shall not know which research is being conducted in the country. It also reduces the global competitiveness of Ugandan research. International partners and funders prioritize integrity and credibility. So weak systems discourage collaboration, and Uganda in global participation. It also slows contribution to national development research is a key driver of innovation, policy, and economic growth. So when integrity is compromised, this will really be a bad thing for our health sector, agriculture, technology, which are essential for building knowledge-based economy and which will be aligned to our Vision 20 and the National Development Plan. So we speak to the strategies for preventing research misconduct and strengthening research integrity systems. I know I've gone overboard, but I only have one more slide and then I'll finish. So we must strengthen institutional policies which are aligned with the national guidelines and regulations. UNCST, I can say, is in the process of developing an integrity code of conduct for the country, and we would like all institutions in the country to use that one to develop their own institutional research integrity codes. So we also need to enhance regulatory oversight, including REX, ICOPS, UNCST, and NDA. This requires coordinated review processes, continuous monitoring, and stronger contribution between regulatory bodies to ensure compliance across the research regulatory cycle. So we must also train our staff and students in research ethics. I want to thank the professor for organizing this, because right now we are building capacity, which is essential for all the researchers to understand the good scientific practices and their responsibility. And it's good you mentioned that students will not be able to graduate if they don't have all the required ethical principles are cleared, and that is very good for us to note as regulators. We need to establish strong reporting and accountable systems, leveraging on our digital platforms. For example, UNCST has NRIMS. These systems improve transparency, they enable tracking of research activities, and support research misconduct and oversight. UNCST also has a research integrity and liaison office where you can report any kind of misconduct. You can whistleblow, and then we shall handle such cases of misconduct. So what is your role as a university in this aspect of research misconduct? So you must embed research integrity into your teaching and research. You must foster ethical and research culture. You must use compliance to national and international regulations so that you can have good regulatory systems for your students. And then you should support quality and credible research outputs. So I want to thank you very much. And in conclusion, I can say that academic excellence is sustained not only by knowledge generation, but by integrity in how that knowledge is produced. And universities, therefore, have a central responsibility to lead in promoting ethical research through strong policies, effective supervision, ethics training, and compliance with the national regulatory system. Thank you for your attention and for listening. And for more information about research integrity in your institution, please refer to our national guidelines, chapter 20, where we have explicitly stated all ethical and integrity issues. And this can be obtained from our website. And we will aim to make Uganda the best, as our minister always says. I want to thank you, and back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Helen Opolot, for taking us through the research misconduct aspect of research. We are really so happy. Of course, I'm sure the participants are researchers all through, and we're having more than 500 listening to you. Well, I've seen many questions coming in the chat and the Q&A. So we shall pray that maybe later you keep online so that later you may respond to a few of these questions. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate. With this, I now want to invite the next panelist. This is none other than Professor Nema Stella. Professor Nema Stella is, as we have already introduced, she's the chair of the Makerere University School of Social Sciences Research Ethics Committee. Professor Nema, you are welcome.
Thank you so much.
And if you can present in not more than 15 minutes, that would be very good.
It will be less.
Thank you. Okay,
So,
that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Can I have the sharing prerequisites?
You already have.
Professor Nema?
Okay. Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and especially for our students, graduate students, and other researchers to recap on what we've been doing. Ethics has been part and parcel of our work as researchers and as academia, but there are some things that we needed to refreshen ourselves with, and when is ethical approval required is one of it. So I chair the Makerere University School of Social Sciences Research Ethics Committee. So to start with what I'm supposed to talk about, when do we really need ethical review? I plucked this from the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology to highlight on the purpose of research. The purpose of research is to enhance society, but also it is important that we protect the participants who are like volunteers, who bear the burden of research. So how do we protect them? One of the issues or ways in which we can protect them is by passing through the rigorous ways of getting clearance, of getting approval from the RECs and from the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, but also administrative approvals from the districts where we usually go. Okay. So when is ethical approval required?
Professor Nema, you have muted yourself.
Kindly unmute yourself and maybe share also their presentation.
Maybe he went off and is just returning.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
But I didn't mute myself, I don't know. I say again. Yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. So from current. Okay. So I was saying that all research involving human participants, their data, and human tissues, we need to obtain clearance. We need to obtain approval, even on the data, during data collection, but also when we are recruiting our participants, to ensure protection for participants and researchers. Because sometimes we think that we are protecting only participants, but we are also protecting ourselves. So ethical approval is generally required when an activity is like research, which is systematic investigation, and we know with research we are contributing to new knowledge, which is usually generalizable. So by utilizing a predetermined method or protocol to study a specific topic, indeed we need to have ethical approval. In circumstances requiring ethical approval, first of all, the people we go to, the human participants. Research involving or recruiting living human participants is essential that we get the clearance, even those using human tissue data, but also the vulnerable groups or the vulnerable populations, like children, people with cognitive impairment, and the rest of that. But also we need ethical approval on sensitive topics, say sexual behavior, illegal activities, mental health, you just name it. Any study that a student and the supervisor think and feel that it is sensitive, it really needs to have approval. But also clinical trials, of course, that one is a must. In research, we have different categories. There are those that we do by interaction or intervention. And interaction, we can interact with people through talking to them, and they provide us with their data, which is private. We do surveys and all sorts of qualitative methods. There's also those of physical intervention, like the clinical trials, biological samples, and the rest of that. But the psychologists do quite a lot of experiments that might alter participants' way of thinking. So all these, indeed, we need to have ethical approval. The moment there is some identifiable private information, the students, that one needs ethical approval. It could be records, it could be some data set that could be linked. So all that needs us to have the approval. Vulnerable populations, I think I mentioned that it is really important, especially the minors, prisoners, and those with mental incapabilities. All that are important. I won't read this, but the new guidelines of National Council provides us with what vulnerable populations in Uganda are. They will be individuals or they could be groups. So special protection of these that I have outlined is quite important. Therefore, you need a review and approval. So determining if the activity meets the legal and institutional definition of research, each approval is generally required. Ethical approval is generally required when an activity is systematic investigation. That is, it is research designed to develop or contribute to the generalizable knowledge I was talking about. But then sometimes there's when ethical approval may not be applicable. Like there are some exemptions, and there are quite few. Maybe publicly available data, research on fully anonymized or public domain data. People have used that. We have approved them. They never needed to be approved, but at least they will bring them to our attention. There's also audit or service evaluation. You want to know the routine audits, your performance, like if there's a program, your performance reviews, or some service evaluations, where no new intervention is tested. But what I can say is that you get guidance from the Research Ethics Committee, but also from the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology if you are not quite sure whether you need an approval, an ethical approval or not. I've talked of quality improvement, the audits. I've talked of available data, classroom exercises, like data that can be collected solely for learning purposes. So what can I conclude? I can say that ethical approval may not be required for studies that do not involve human subjects or participants as defined by the regulatory framework. And here we have the National Council for Science and Technology, but also the regs that we have. And these typically include systematic reviews of published literature, analysis of publicly available data sets where individuals cannot be identified, or quality improvement audit projects intended just for internal consumption, institutional evaluation, rather than the generalizable for the new knowledge. So what I can say to our graduate students is that consultation is so important. Consult the REC for guidance. The REC can review and give guidance on whether your study can be exempted, and a letter of exemption is provided before commencement of your study. Ethical approval must be secured before any recruitment or data collection begins. There's no, I think Helen talked about it, there's no retrospective approval. That is, approvals cannot be obtained after data collection has started. We had somebody who came to us we suspected that maybe he had collected the data, and we looked at the proposal, we rejected it because it seems as if they had collected the data and they wanted us to rubber stamp on it. So we don't do that retrospectively. So research proposals must be submitted to the REC. And of course, there's the risk mitigation. The goal is to maximize the benefit and minimize the risks or harm to the participants. So in a nutshell, I could say that most of the researches that are done here in Uganda, be it behavioral, social, that seem to be with minimal risk, they should pass through the ethical approvals. In the event that a student or a person is unsure about whether to apply for the ethical review, they should go to research ethics committees for guidance. So thank you so much. I hope my 15 minutes are done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Stella Nema, for taking us through answering actually that question, when is ethical approval required? Of course, there are a number of questions which had been raised about this, when and how and this and that. And of course, your presentation has answered some of those questions. But still, there are some more questions, comments, which will which you may have to respond to later. So we request that you keep online. Thank you so much. With this, now I want to, yes, thank you so much. Yes, now I want to invite Dr. Moses Ochian to come on board. Dr. Moses Ochian is the chair of the School of Biomedical Sciences, REC. So please give us what you have as regards to this. Dr. Ochian is the chair of the School of Biomedical Sciences, REC. So please give us what you have.
It seems he's not there. I'm not seeing.
Okay. So do we go to maybe we could go to the next presenter if he comes. We will give him an opportunity later. The next presenter here is Dr. Paul Katiabami. Dr. Paul Katiabami, if you are ready, we will be ready to listen to you. Dr. Paul Katiabami, are you available?
I have promoted him.
Yes.
I'm just waiting for him to accept the promotion.
Okay.
He has declined. Yeah, because
You may consider promoting him again because he may not know.
okay. I've done that again. I'm waiting to see what if he's accepting. He has declined again. Oh,
Let me just give him a call directly.
perfect. Yeah, because
You may consider promoting him again because he may not know.
okay.
In the meantime, we can maybe Dr. Stella, Prof. Nema could be responding to some of the questions.
He has joined now.
Oh, he has joined. Okay, good.
Yeah, sorry, I think I'm now on.
Yes, you are on.
Okay.
You are so much welcome.
Sorry about that.
Yes, as you prepare yourself, just Dr. Kutiabami is the chair of the Makerere University School of Health Sciences Research and Ethics Committee. And of course, is the member of Makerere University School of Medicine Research and Ethics Committee. You are welcome.
Thank you, Prof. Now,
we give you about not more than 15 minutes to give your presentation. If you can do it in less than 15, but make sure that you don't miss any key important points because we really need them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, I've already been introduced. My name is Paul Katiabami. I'm a pharmacist by training, and I'm chairing the School of Health Science Rec. This afternoon, I'm going to be discussing something about graduate research. And this is one of the issues that we tend to focus on when we are dealing with our research ethics work. Now, I will start by giving this quotation from a lady, Zora Huston, which says that research is a formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. Curiosity drives people to explore uncharted waters. And this is exactly what research is. It drives people to discover, but because of the uncertainty, outcomes are not always predictable. You can plan everything carefully, but you can never be certain of what you are going to find. And indeed, that's typical of research. It's like exploration. You venture into the unknown. If you knew what you are looking for in research, then that research is no longer valid. So you only do research because you don't know what you are expecting to come after. So when you explore, there are inherent risks that come by. And venturing into the unknown involves uncertainty, potential setbacks, and as well as ethical challenges. And all these must be managed responsibly. It's often the most vulnerable in society that we try to invite to join research. The reason being that they can't control themselves. They are dependent on us to protect them. And indeed, most of the time, research ethics is bent on the risks that have been made to people engaged in research. I will divulge into briefly some historical backgrounds, but I will leave out a number of them. But I want to refer to one of the first recorded research in literature. This is research by Daniel, for those who read the Bible, who was actually mesmerized through curiosity. Why do people who eat what he referred to as real food, which was actually comprising of mostly wine and high-fat food, were not performing as good as those that were eating the poor man's food, which was actually composed of mostly water, grains, and fruits? So when he was actually looking at these two categories of people, he wondered why those that are rich are performing badly compared to those that are seem to be poor. So he got some prisoners, some he gave the real food, and others he gave the poor man's food, which was water and grains and vegetables. After some time, after monitoring them for some time, he saw that those that were eating poor man's food were indeed performing better than those that are eating the rich man's food. And indeed, that type of research has actually, up now, his findings have been valid. When you eat chips and chicken for a long time, you are likely to not perform well as that people who are eating greens and vegetables and water. But that's curiosity that was driving him. And later on, another curiosity-driven Cleopatra, who was wondering why housemaids, why females are different from males in terms of appearance and their sort of body composure. So for her, her thinking was that it takes a longer time to craft a female fetus compared to a male fetus, because for her, males were rougher in appearance than females. Females were better modeled than males. So what he did, he forced her handmaid to be impregnated by prisoners, and later on, at a time interval, he was actually cutting the wombs of those women and seeing what type of fetus is being formed. I think the curiosity was actually warranted, but the process of getting the results was one which was questionable. Here you can see that curiosity can drive somebody to do something that ends up to be good, but also it can end up driving somebody to do something that can be dangerous, and that's indeed what Cleopatra did. It ended up having a lot of people die. And I'll skip some of these cases and go to the cases that we know, the Tuskegee as well as the Nazi experiments. These were actually experiments that led us to some of the guidelines that we now have. The Nuremberg trial, which was Nuremberg Code, which was actually after the Nazi experiments by the German doctors, and later on the Belmont report, which was after the Tuskegee study. This Tuskegee study was about the natural history of syphilis. And indeed, it's important to study history of disease if we want to get cure for those diseases and understand how they affect the body. However, how we do it has a bearing on whether the results are going to be well accepted by the scientific society. For this study, they got Black Americans who were suffering from syphilis and were denied treatment just because they are studying the natural history of the disease. And many of them died, and later on, the President of America, actually, I think President Clinton apologized for having allowed the government of America having allowed such a study to continue. But out of that study, we got the Belmont report. And indeed, all the principles that we talk about in history, which were talked about by the previous speakers, were based mostly from this Belmont report. And these principles form the foundation that now govern research. And we see that they try to balance the gap of pursuit of research as well as protection of participants. And in this whatever pursuit, we see that research has undergone a shift from reliance on investigators' self-regulation to formalized mandatory ESCO oversight that is now done by the RECs. And indeed, we see that protection of individuals is fundamental in maintaining public trust, like previous speaker have said, and without it, probably we may not have people accepting to enroll in research. These are the basic principles. I'm not diverging into them, but what I'm going to do is see how these principles are actualized into our research environment. First and foremost, in research, we see a number of categories of people. Some are able to make decisions by themselves, but several may not be able to. So this principle makes that respect whoever we enroll in research, whether able to make decisions by themselves or whether not able to. And for those that are able to make decisions by themselves, they must consent, like previous speakers have said, and to ensure that their involvement in research is actually consonant with their values and aspirations as individuals. And in the case that somebody doesn't have the capacity, be it maybe mentally maybe a child with underdevelopmental cognition, those must get consent from a surrogate, and if they are able to, they can get assent from themselves. So whenever they able to consent like a child, then there must be assent, which comes from an adult. All this is done in order to protect them and respect them as human beings. The other way is to ensure that people have the right to withdraw. It's actually sometimes challenging. You take time to recruit a person, and midway the person feels that he needs to withdraw from a study. For students, researchers, this is something that we don't like, because it will actually compromise your ability to complete in time. But we say that you must have, leave people have the right to withdraw at any time, and that's the essence of informed consent. So when people withdraw, that's why in the consent form, there must be a clause that is clear that participation is voluntary, and one can withdraw at any time without their care or ability to perform their day-to-day affairs. The other issue that ensures that you respect persons is the issue of transparency and honesty. Whenever we are trying to do research, we must be transparent and honest in what we do. However, there are some studies that may not require that honesty and transparency as well, but these are studies, especially behavior studies, where without doing deception, you may not get the true data that you want to get. For example, a lot in social studies, you want to study behavior of people. If you tell people that you are studying them, probably they are going to change the way they behave. And therefore, in that case, you may not remove consent, you may defer consent. You consent after your data has been collected. And that's also true for doing research in emergency situations and other form of research that people normally do. In emergency, the person is not capable to do research, and probably may not have a next of kin who can consent on their behalf. In that case, the guidelines are clear that you can collect your data, but when somebody is stable, you now consent them, and if they agree, you continue using their data. If they don't agree, you discard that data, because that's what the guideline recommends. How do we put beneficence into practice? One of the ways is to ensure that we don't harm people. Previous presenters have already told us that beneficence ensure that you maximize benefits and minimize risks. And by doing that, you must make sure that you don't really coerce people into joining your study, because by doing that, you're actually causing harm to them. So you simply incentivize them, and after doing that, you allow them to say yes or no. We shall see some examples that pertain to graduate research. The other way is to ensure that you have a very clear risk-benefit analysis. You try to take or to assess all the risks, however remote they may be, into picture before you can now recruit somebody. Tell them everything and let them make a decision whether to join or not to join. Risks can actually be assessed in two ways. One, the probability of the risk to occur, and the magnitude of the risk. And I can give an example here. It's actually risky to move by bus to Nairobi from Kampala. And it's equally risky to move by plane from Kampala to Nairobi. However, the probability of getting an accident between the two buses may differ, the two modes of transport may differ. Probably it's easier to get an accident by bus than by airplane. But the magnitude of risk that arises from the two accidents, one for the airplane is so huge that when an accident happens, likely all occupants are likely to die. So when you are trying to assess risk, try to see what's the magnitude of risk that may happen in this research, and what's the magnitude of risk that may happen in the research. A good example is a student who was doing a master's in anatomy. He wanted to find out, to study whether there is a change in the position of the nerve in children of Uganda. This was the sciatic nerve, and that arose from the fact that whenever they were injecting children in the appropriate position of the injection, they were getting paralysis of the leg. So we wanted to find out, has there been a change in the location of that nerve that is affected whenever the children are injected? So he made an application to the REC, and the REC reviewed it, and the student was going to go to the ward, recruit parents, get their children, and now cut them to see whether the nerve is still in the straight position. We thought that this was actually very horrendous and rejected it. We advised the student simply go to the mortuary. If you are lucky to find there bodies of children that have died, maybe contact their parents and then be able to work on those ones. And the student was able to do that. However, as technology improved, we can now trace a nerve in the body without cutting the body. And now, if one wanted to do a study of that nature, it's possible to do it without harming the person. So that's how we assess risk, look at the magnitude as well as the probability of getting the risk. So the benefits are quite a number. It could be a direct benefit where somebody is going to benefit from the treatment or from the interview. You're going to visit the person and maybe counsel him afterwards, and that counseling would be benefit that is going to gain out of that. And this could be indirect, whereby you're simply going to contribute to the field of knowledge that you are studying. And that's the knowledge that's going to benefit everybody, and therefore that's not indirect benefit, but the benefit to society. So the REC can measure the benefit to society. For example, is it enough to expose somebody to the risk? I can give another example here where a study was actually presented to the REC, where somebody wanted to study how the batua are adapted to climbing trees, and was going to use a gamma camera to monitor a motor man climbing a tree and see how the heart is pumping, the breathing, and the temperature. And the question was, how is it going to benefit the community that you are studying? The researcher was not able to achieve that one, and the study was rejected. And it was rejected because it's important that research, when you're presenting a study, you must be the one to articulate the benefit that the community is going to get for the study. I still imagine that the study could have been beneficial somehow to the field of that it was knowledge of the field that he was studying, but he wasn't able to articulate. So it's upon you, the researcher, to articulate that benefit when you're presenting your study. The other thing is that as part of beneficence, that we must have the design of the research being appropriate for the study you're doing. It's not possible to do a study that is cross-sectional, then you want to have effect of something on something. So you must make sure the science is valid to make the research ethical. There is a saying that if the science is not valid, then the ethics cannot be there. Bad science is bad ethics. You must make sure that the statistical power, you must have a sample large enough to make sure you get your endpoints, but not so large to expose more people to risk. So there must be balance in terms of size of the sample you're going to use. And all these are things that RECs try to look at. Studies must be monitored by the REC, as well as for clinical trials by DSMB, by looking at the adverse events that may arise through participation research. The other important thing is the researcher must be competent. And this is where students come into whatever. Shall look at them in the next few slides. A student is a learner, and their competence is sometimes questionable. So the REC when the REC receives the protocol, one of the things we want to find out whether the student will be able to do the study given that type of level of understanding. I can give an example here. We got a protocol from food science. This student was a master's student wanting to do a study, which was a clinical trial, testing a new formula that he has formulated. For clinical trials, the guidelines are clear. Somebody must be medically trained to do a clinical trial. So we rejected it after back and forth negotiations. He had to change the title, but not a clinical trial, and the study was done. So we have already talked about the types of benefits. I'm not going to that again. We want now to see how justice is actually implemented in research. One is to ensure that we don't focus on a single group of people to be enrolled in research. By focusing on those, we've already seen that we normally go to those that are more vulnerable than others to enroll in research. For Makerere, we see that a lot of studies, especially for people from College of Health Sciences, happen in Kawempe, Katanga, Kikoni, because these communities are close to the university and they are convenient for people to approach. That in itself is not scientific enough. You must only choose a community, a person to enroll in study if that person can answer your research question. So there must be a scientific reason and not simply convenience as a reason that you use to enroll a participant. And if you are not going to enroll a participant, there still must be a reason why you are not enrolling a participant. So justice makes us to ensure that people should be enrolled without any bias. So there must be fair distribution of burden and benefits. And here we can look at if you are doing research and research generates good knowledge, how does the community to which that you could done the research benefit from that knowledge? For students, here we fail a lot. Your interest is getting your master's, your PhD, and you forget that the community that you studied should benefit from your knowledge. So that's post-trial access to information and also positive outputs of your study are important if you are to do ethical research. And there is this issue of global justice, where people simply come in, do research, and they fly out with data without actually contributing to the well-being of the country. And that's also true if a researcher from Makerere goes to a community, does research, and that doesn't leave anything behind that shows that indeed he has improved the study. We've seen this one happen a lot, especially when we are taking students out for community-based assessment. If you go to a community, you do work in there and don't have positive change in that community, then that community may finally shun future people who come to do research there. And we've seen that a lot in the College of Health Sciences. And indeed, justice also makes us protect those that are vulnerable, because being vulnerable, your protection is actually left to those that are with authority or better off, especially the researchers. We've talked about fair recruitment, and in recruitment, we will now talk about the incentive and compensations in research. It's not fair to go and do research in a community and don't provide them some incentive. Incentives may be monetary, they may be other things. Being a show of a rake, I've been able to get calls from the community complaining that somebody did the research in this community and even didn't come back to feed us the outcome of the research. I got a call from Luero, and this study had ended. It was a student study, and probably the student had already graduated, and we had to convince the student to come and report back to that community his findings. And good enough, the student obliged. We organized the meeting, went back to Luero, and had to make a feedback session for the community to appreciate that they were selected fairly and were able to benefit from the study that was conducted. So as students, we need to ensure that we feed back to the community that we do research in. Now, what makes student research unique and critical in this nature? And that's the nature of the student graduate research. One graduate research presents a unique set of ethical challenges because it sits at an intersection between academic training, professional development, and also looking for to contribute to original knowledge. So a student occupies concurrently the role of a learner at taking classes, employee who is actually having professional responsibilities, as well as a junior colleague who's supposed to conduct research and co-author papers. These roles have conflicting expectations. For a learner, you must be sit in class, attend lectures full-time. For an employee, you must also be able to contribute the well-being of the organization that you work for. So some of these conflicting expectations may not be able to be done by this sole individual who is a student, and therefore to create a challenge in doing ethical work. Students are always ambitious and formative and also resource trained. I got a student who was actually a bachelor student who wanted to develop a drug that can cure HIV. A good ambition, but because of the nature of the level of academic level, and also to know that's not possible, you tone down your study and do what is possible. We always tell them, try to bite what you can chew and swallow. Don't bite too much, because when you bite too much, it can choke you and you may not be able to finish in time. There is power dynamics also among students, between supervisor students and also the institution. One time I was in a meeting, and this was a PhD meeting, and one of the people there say that these PhD students are our colleagues. And one of the people made a rejoinder, these are not colleagues, these are students, and we must treat them as students and not colleagues. And of course, that's something that can be debatable. Are these just students, or we can take them as colleagues who we can sit in a round table and discuss and see how to forge a way forward. And for students, that's something that is challenging as well. Graduate students also are simply emerging researchers. They have limited experience, and they may unintentionally breach ethical conduct because they are not well trained or they lack adequate supervision. And I think one of the presenters has also highlighted that the lack of supervision can lead to breach of some of the ethical issues that we've highlighted. There's pressure to perform, finish on time, and this can tempt students to cut corners and misrepresent data. So it's important that whenever we are trying to tell students to do research.
Paul,
yes, please.
I think, yeah, you can try to wind up maybe in the next 2 or 3 minutes.
One slide actually is.
Yeah.
So as a student, we try to make sure that you create time enough for them to do research. But however, there's also another challenge. They have limited funding. So we always advise them, please tone down your study to fit into your budget. And sometimes they have a challenge in this because they are ambitious and they want to do a lot of things. So a student environment is inherently high pressure, where demands to publish, meet deadlines and other things, and funding can also make them cut corners. And in conclusion, research ethics is not a hurdle to be cleared. It's a recognition that research impacts on life, research processes and outputs affect people, animals, and the environment. Researchers must ensure that the knowledge that is gained is never outweighed by the risks that they leave behind in the community. And for graduate students, it's not that students are unethical because they are inherently bad, but rather we need to appreciate that it's unfolding. The environment they work in is high pressure, and they must be supervised well in order for them to perform better. And indeed, we need to make sure that they have some bit of incentives that can help them to achieve good results. Thank you so much. Back to Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kutiavami, for taking us through that, the ethical issues, especially in graduate research. I'm sure our participants who are in that category have got a lot. And of course, later, we request you keep online so that later we give an opportunity to answering a few questions here and there. With this, I think now we can invite the next panelist. I'm not sure whether Dr. Moses Ochan is now available. Dr. Mayende, is he available? Otherwise, we may go to Professor Walakira.
He actually confirmed logging in. If he has logged in, he confirmed. Dr. Moses, are you on the call? Okay, maybe we can just proceed to Prof. Walakira as we
Prof is not there yet.
All right, then let's go to Professor Walakira. Dr. Walakira, please get ready to get on board.
All right.
Dr. Walakira is the chairperson of the College of Business and Management Sciences Research Ethics Committee. So you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Professor Muyodi. I want to request Dr. Kutiavami to stop his sharing so that I start screening my presentation. Thank you.
Right, if you can do it in 10 minutes, we'll be very happy. But make sure that you don't lose any key points. So you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Professor Muyodi. I want to request Dr. Kutiavami to stop his sharing. If there is feedback, please. Somebody plays back what I say. I want to start, but I'm trying to make sure that I'm screening my presentation. All right. Thank you once again. The good thing is that most of what I need to talk about has been highlighted. I can just mention and move on. My presentation is about the best practices for ethical research. And like Professor Muyoda said, I'm the chair of AMS. I teach here in social work. I'm a professor of social work. All right. Just for purposes of being on the same page, let me highlight that research is a systematic process involving the collection, analysis, and interpretation of data. And what is the purpose? To generate knowledge that can improve humanity. What about research ethics? Also, it has been defined, but just for information for my presentation, they comprise a set of ethical guidelines on how scientific research should be conducted and disseminated. I'm making it very simple. And best practices, these are methods and techniques that have worked well in the past. You can call them recipes for success. Now we can look at the best practices at two levels. Level number one is research governance, which involves the national level, where we have the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, also the Ministry for Science and Technology, and then the research ethics committees. So that is the first level, governance. The second level is at the principal investigator. What is it that we can identify as best practices? All of you are well aware about the roles and functions of the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology, and I think they are doing a perfect job. One of them is the development, updating, and enforcement of guidelines. And for your information, there are quite many guidelines in place. And if they don't update them, then it can become a problem. So they also do a good job of updating these guidelines. Some people have already mentioned some of the guidelines, like the national guidelines for protection of human subjects, the national research policy. Some time back, there was also something on conduct, a guideline or a note on how to comply with the LGBTQ law or act, as they normally call it in Uganda. So if you do research and you don't know about these developments, you can get into trouble. They ensure compliance with the national research regulations. And for your information, they also conduct inspections, audits, and follow-ups where necessary. I consider this to be one of the best practices. The other one is about sensitization on legal and ethical frameworks. It would be of no value to have laws and regulations in place, but when researchers and the accredited research ethics committees don't know about this. So one of the good things is to make us aware about their details. They organize regularly meetings for us to be informed. Then there is also capacity building and training. For those of you who have done research for a considerable amount of time, you need an ethics certificate to conduct research. So they help out with this, but also they can offer you information where you can get this type of training. To submit your protocol, you have to use the National Research Information Management System. It's already in place. Some of us, many years ago, when we started doing research, there was nothing like this. So for me, I consider this a very good practice. Let me skip some of these so that I mention them at some other level, but they offer us technical support. Those of us who manage risks, without them, we would be facing difficulties because constantly or continuously issues come up and we consult and they give us guidance. They also share relevant information. They can refer you to the website, they can access you the documents and all other information that you need without trouble. They even have a pool where you can get all of this information, and I urge you to create time to look at some of these documents because they are very important. All right, the second level of governance is at the research ethics committees, which are accredited institutions. We work on behalf of the National Council for Science and Technology. We are the frontline managers. But one of the frustrating things would be failure to provide, to review protocols on time. So if it is a best practice, then what should it be? You provide the feedback on time. You don't waste people's time. Yeah, I could give you many examples, but I don't have that benefit. But the other thing is to provide information that improves the quality of the protocol. There are situations that have come across where feedback which is given actually confuses and even changes completely the topic and the focus, which can't match with the resources. So the REC should be able to improve the quality of the protocol without making it very difficult. Of course, they must offer administrative support and also must be vigilant and conduct supervision. Well, the other thing I find as a best practice is where REC make accessible. They make sure that the REC services are accessible, especially to the students, because students most of the time are vulnerable. They don't have resources, they're under pressure, the timelines are too strict. So the more they simply process, the better. And when it comes to, for example, vigilancy and ethical oversight, giving ethical oversight, this is one of the things that I've found our REC and many other RECs doing. We conduct routine and targeted site visits. You'll be surprised to discover that what some people are doing is completely different from what they wrote in the protocol. So you have to ensure that the documents they use in the field are stamped by the REC. You have to review those documents and also make sure that they align with the actual practices on ground. And you have to engage directly with the research staff and participants where possible. Also, you have to provide a report which you can share with the National Council for Science and Technology, especially as one of the evidence to show that you are doing your job right. If there are any issues that emerge, you have to follow up on those issues to ensure that researchers are doing their work properly. So that is at the level of governance. But what about now? Of course, it cuts across, but what about what specifically those researchers must do? I think every presenter has talked about these principles. I don't want to go into details anymore, but I want to encourage the students who are here that even though we are highlighting these issues and it's good enough, you also need to create some time to get into some training, maybe 2-3 days. There are different people who offer this training so that you internalize these issues. All of these respect for persons, confidentiality, scientific integrity, the principle of beneficence, justice, ethical data management, and ethical compliance. I like this issue of community engagement, and I think I can shed more light if time allows. Now, the presenter of the Dr. Porot, I think, brought out these issues very, very well. I can give you a story. Many years ago, we were implementing a research project and was supported by ILO. So we sent out data collectors, and one of them actually didn't collect the data, but he gave us tools. But how were we able to find out? We had supervisors, but I think this guy was so creative, fraudulent. We didn't capture him. But when it came to data cleaning, entry and analysis, we were able to identify up to maybe 20 questionnaires that were fabricated. And when we engaged this person, he confessed that he sat under a tree and filled them. So these issues can always come up. So it is important for you as a researcher that at every step you can be able to, identify these issues and address them. So we had to remove all of those tools, and they were not part of the analysis. And we had to conduct additional interviews to fill that gap. All right, there are also issues to do with ethical data management. Collect only data that is relevant and necessary, clear the data and how long the data will be stored, ensure the storage and responsible data sharing. As a researcher, I've had cases where I submitted a protocol and a rec came here actually to confirm where we had stored the data, had to ask a number of questions, but they found us very organized and they gave us, A. So these things are very important for you as a researcher so that people can really know that you're doing a professional job. Now, community engagement, it is also a good practice if you work closely with the community, especially following the guidelines that the National Council put in place. But you need to do it early in your research process, take into account the cultural values and community norms so that you don't cause a stampede or a serious issue. Also use appropriate language and communication methods. Some of you have my students just a few days ago, they were contributing and they used the word committee. I was saying, what does it mean? So it's a new terminology that young people are using. But now if you use some of those terminologies which they can't understand, then it becomes a problem. Then also you have to share findings with the people who have participated in the research. The issues of ethical approval, I thought one of the presenters was actually going to tell us a step-by-step process. I was waiting for that because I think it is very important for our students here and researchers. But I think the director will also address it at some stage. But you have to ensure that you gain ethical approval before starting your research. But as a principal, I know National Council for students, especially bachelor level and masters, there is a dual process where you can report, especially for bachelors.
Prof, I believe you're about to wind up in 2 or so minutes.
Yes, I'm finalizing.
Yes, thank you.
So there is a way you can be covered by the committees at the departmental level, and you may not have to go through all of that process, but the department would have to report to National Council and direct about those students who provided oversight. Now, this is a summary of those issues that don'ts, you see, what people normally fall into, and because of time, I don't want to go through them again. But there are also those tips. I already talked about starting early, the process, following the guidelines, using simple language, double checking all the documents before submission, and responding promptly to reviewer comments, because you always get that feedback. So what are some of the takeaway points? Ethical research is a continuous responsibility. Protecting participants is a core obligation. Good ethical practice improves research quality and credibility. Thank you. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Professor Walakira, for taking us through the best practices for ethical research. We have learned a lot. Our researchers, our graduate students have learned a lot. Of course, there are questions here and there. We hope you'll be available online later to respond to some of them. With this, I say we are remaining with one presentation that is step by step. I'm not sure whether Dr. Moses Ochan is now available. Professor Wamala, has he reported? Is he available?
He's available and showing on the screen right now.
Great, great, great. You are welcome, Dr. Ochan. We are ready to listen to you. We have already introduced you. We have given a brief bio at the beginning, so most of the participants.
All right. All right. Thank you. Let me just confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, please. You are clear.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to go through a step-by-step guide on research ethics committee application process. And I think I have a short time, so I'll try to go very fast. The first thing I need to appreciate UNCST for the work they have done to simplify this process. Specifically a gentleman called Collins at UNCST, very accessible to any one given time. So for the researchers, in this case, we have the graduate students, PhD, masters, and also postdoc. The simplest way to get my presentation would be just for you to go to UNCST NRIM system. The NRIM system has YouTubes that guide on the submission process of your protocols or proposals. So in case you miss anything here, you just go to Uganda National Council of Science and Technology, NRIM system, and you watch YouTube that will take you through step-by-step process of submission. In case this process, this presentation is cut short because of time. I want to note that all the recs in the country are overseen by UNCST as our direct supervisor or regulator, but we also have in the country, we have the National Drug Authority. My colleagues might have already said this, but because I was not there, National Drug Authority will be focusing on clinical trials directly, but of course also UNCST, then National Drug Authority. Then you have Uganda National Health Research Organization, UNRO, looking at the health research. You have the Uganda Wildlife Authority, wildlife research, and then of course those regulators oversee the researches which are being done in those different areas. For the levels of the recs, we have of course the research ethics committees, which I think we have about 49 in the country or more, because the numbers keep changing. Then we also have the IACOCs. The IACOCs, we have two IACOCs. I forgot where the other one is. I think the other one is in Naro. Then we have this one at COVABS, Makerere University, which is the Institutional Animal Use and Care Committees. So we have researchers that can go to the RECs, and then you have researchers that go to the animal institutional animal use and care committees for review. So for those that go to the RECs, they should be involving human participants. I had in the questions there someone saying they're going to interview people, I'm going to do surveys. Should I also go to the ethics committee? Yes, any research where the participants are human, I'm coming.
Dr. Chan, have we lost you? It looks like we have lost.
But it's still logged in. Okay. We give him just a minute or two to see.
Yeah.
Doctor,
connection problem.
Yeah, he has lost connection. Dr. Chan, we are not able to hear you. Okay, he has been dropped. Maybe in the meantime, can Helen come in, Helen from National Council, and maybe respond to just one or two questions which have been burning in the chat room. Helen, one or two questions as we wait for Dr. Chan. Helen, can you come in? Are you able to hear me? Helen?
Yes, please.
Can
Yes,
you
thank
respond
you
to
very
one or
much.
two burning questions as we wait for
Hello?
Dr.
My
Chan?
network.
Oh, you're back.
So he's back.
I'm back.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Sorry, my network is a bit disturbing.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you can hear me, I don't know where you. I was just highlighting that we have a number of RECs in the country. We have about 40, but that number keeps changing. So for the graduate students here, when you are choosing to submit your proposal, you submit your proposal to the REC in the Institute Act. In this case now we have schools that have RECs, we have colleges, we have college-based RECs, and then you have school-based RECs. So you submit the proposal through the REC in the institution where you are. If it is a school REC, if you're in a school that has a REC, use the REC in that school. If you're in the college that has a REC, use a REC in that college. You are not supposed to move from one school to the other. But in cases where the school has no REC, then that's a different issue. You can use the next available REC, which is most aligned to your research. However, you should use the RECs in the schools or colleges where you are based. Okay, and then also you can choose this RECs based also on the field of research. In case you are in a certain college, and then you're doing research, for example, now in the College of Science, and students are choosing research on animals, they have to take that protocol now to the IACOC. For the researchers that require approvals, REC approvals prior to submission, prior to you submitting your protocol to the REC, you need approvals before or clearances. The department has to clear your proposal as a master's student, MSc or MEd or any master's level study. The department has to, because the department is the technical level, the department present the proposal to the department, then the department clears it, and then after that you submit it to the REC. That is for masters. But for PhD, you after the department, you either go to the doctoral committee or to the higher degrees committee. So from the department to the doctoral committees, or from the department to the higher degrees, or from the department doctoral committee to the higher degrees committee. So before you go to the REC, you have to get clearances from either your higher degrees committee or from the department or from the higher degrees committee before you get to the REC. And then for the post-REC approval process, post-REC, so after the REC has listened to your proposal as a master student or a PhD student. For master students, the process ends at the REC level. The REC then submits the approved proposals for masters to UNCST for overall clearance. For PhD students, after the REC approval, you must submit your protocol directly to UNCST for clearance. So at UNCST, you get two clearances. There is a clearance in the UNCST for you to conduct your research in the country, and then there is also clearance from State House. You have to get both clearances, but you don't need to submit to State House. You only submit to UNCST, and the clearance from State House will come to UNCST, and you collect it. Please note that you cannot go to the field to collect data as PhD student before UNCST and clearance and that from the President's office. President's office clearance sometimes comes late, and so you can still go ahead to start your data collection after you've gotten the UNCST approval. So for identifying the appropriate committee, we've already talked about this, but now in practical terms, when you go to the NRIM system in UNCST, you are going to get in the drop-down key a list of all the approved RECs currently in the country. And once you pick the REC which is appropriate to you in that it's or it's aligned to the topical area where you are focusing your study on, then you choose from that system. This applies to submission to the REC, submission to UNCST, submission to IACOC. For the NDA, NDA also is now establishing its own submission process platform, which again you will also be using for those who will be doing clinical trials. So for you to prepare your protocol for submission, you need to adhere to certain things that the REC and IACOC SOPs guide on what you need to submit. The websites of the RECs that you have selected to read the guidelines on what you are supposed to submit. If the proposal, there's a proposal templates, you prepare your proposal based on the template that is proposed by that REC. If it is the related documents, consent forms, material transfer agreements, data sharing agreements, community engagement plans, all those documents that you'll need as part of your submission are available in the website of the RECs that you are going to select. So please make sure you visit the website of those RECs or talk to the administrator of those RECs to give you guidelines on the expected material for you to submit to the REC. All our administrators are very accessible people for all the RECs at least. But some of the documents that you may need, you'll confirm this by the different RECs that you'll select. Some of the documents you'll need are supporting documents. If you're going to conduct research under any of these formats, master's or PhD, informed consent forms or the ICFs, data collection tools, of course, CVs of the research team, that is the student and the supervisors, proof of training for the clinical research, those who are doing clinical research. GCP training is very important. So you need to submit a GCP certificate. And for those who are doing laboratory, clinical laboratory, GCLP is also very key for you to submit. And those who are doing animal studies, there is also need for training on handling of animal care, animals in research. So you also need to submit those certificates that show that you have undergone relevant training in the area where you want to do research. Now we have the anti-plagiarism report, completion of this REC signed form. This applicable very well during the time when we are doing hard copy submissions, but it is still good that you fill this form and submit as well. Fully signed proposal, evidence of payment, letter of clearance from the department, higher degrees committees, or doctoral committee, wherever applicable, signed minutes from the department, and of course, since you're submitting through the NREM system, make sure that you have an account in the NREM system. Now, once you have submitted your documents, now you need to ensure in the data collection process that you adhere to what you have submitted, especially the ICF. If I will not go through it, Dr. Kutiabambi has highlighted some of the ethical things that you must consider, but in the ICF, those are highlighted under different subsections. In the informed consent, ensure that participants voluntarily agree to participate in your study. No coercion or confidentiality, ensure that is protected. Risks versus benefit, make sure this is explained clearly to the participants. What are the risks of me participating in this study? What are the benefits? Vulnerable population, make sure you highlight for us the safeguards you are going to have if you are going to include vulnerable populations, children, pregnant women, prisoners, people who are mentally ill. If you're going to include such populations in your study, you need to provide more issues, more information as to how you are going to ensure you protect them in their research. Okay. The submission methods, I've already highlighted that, and the submission should include those. I'll not go through that. Let me just go through this slide on the review types. So when you submit your proposal, please select the kind of review type that you want. Either you want an expedited review or fast track review. You need to identify the kind of review that you want. However, MSc proposals and the PhDs usually go through full board review, which is the regular review, where you select regular review in most cases. But for you may want a fast track review, or you want expedited or an exempt review. You can be exempted. All these are based on the level of risk that the study poses to the participants. That is evaluated by the REC, and then the suitable, if that kind of review that you have chosen fits, you will then be notified accordingly. So that is initial review. Then you have what we call continuing review, whereby you, after you've gotten the initial approval, that approval is for 1 year. Most of our master students take more than 1 year in their researches. And so at the end of every 1 year, please apply for annual renewal. And this application should be submitted at least 3 months before the expiry date of the current approval. We note that the PhD students take 3, 4, 5 years. Some of our PhD students have been getting approval only once, and they forget that every year you must get annual renewal of your approval. Then you also have amendments. In case you get approval, but as you start the study, you realize that certain procedures you had proposed are not working as you had expected, you are required to request for amendments. You submit this amendment request to the REC. REC will review it and approve. Please don't implement any amendments or changes to the approved protocol prior to you getting the approval of those amendments from the REC on record. Okay. Responding to the review feedback, also this is submitted through the NREM system. So once the REC sits, reviews your protocol, you will be given feedback for which you will have to respond to the feedback. And you respond to the outcome of the REC meeting also on the NREM system. Okay, so you need to ensure that you respond to those comments within the specified period as identified by the specific REC. Some RECs say 2 to 3 weeks, others 14 days, others 90 days. This period is variable based on the SOPs of particular RECs, but make sure you adhere to that period. From the time they give you the comments from the outcome of the meeting, there's a specific time you must take within which you should submit those comments. Beyond that, the REC will determine how to act on you based on their SOPs. In some cases, they say it becomes null and void, and then you have to resubmit again. Please respond carefully. Take time to ensure that you provide point-by-point response to all comments that you have been given to fasten the process. The approval types, the feedback you are going to get from the REC when the REC reviews your protocol. It could be either approve your protocol with minor corrections, which when you receive, you can make those corrections through the supervision of your supervisors, and you submit. But they can also request major revisions, for which case you resubmit a new protocol, or they can reject the protocol. Okay, I've already talked about this. Make sure you don't start any research without REC approval. And for PhD, don't start any research before UNCST approval, PhD and postdoc research. Okay, so maintain compliance during the research process. Once you've gotten approval, make sure that you comply.
And kindly try to wind up maybe in the next 2 or so minutes, because we run short of time now. We are risking being cut off.
The last slide. So once you've been approved, make sure you comply. In case you encounter any adverse events, report to the REC within 24 hours. Make sure you submit any amendments that you want before you implement them. Make sure you provide progress reports every year and seek for annual renewals. You, at the end of the study, don't just defend and go away. After you have defended, please write to the REC the study closure report so that the REC officially closes your file in the REC system. This research closure report is submitted to the REC for masters and for PhD, REC and UNCST. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chan, for that quite interesting presentation. What I have to assure you is that you should do, our researchers, our graduate students are very, very thirsty for this information. So thank you so much. I'm sure very many have grasped what is possible. But of course, there are many questions here and there, and we hope you'll still be online so that you respond to them. With this, we have heard from all the presenters, the panelists we had this morning, this afternoon. The next on the item, on the agenda item on the program is a discussion where we are going to have a Q&A, and I want to invite Professor Robert Wamala to take us through that. Professor Wamala.
Thank you very much, Professor Muyodi. Our time is really quite fast spent. We've already gone in, extra 30 to 40 minutes into our time. And, but we've been responding to the questions as they come in. And I'm also aware that Professor Sarasar has also been waiting in the waiting room to kind of like also give her remarks. So what I'm going to do in the interest of time, I'm going to ask every presenter, I know they've been responding to the questions, but to just come in and respond to just one or two questions only, one or two questions, and then we shall just close it up. So I'll begin with Helen. Helen, just pick up one or two, what you've been responding to, and then share, and then we shall go to the next one. We should be done with this like in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor, and thank you all for the questions that you have been sending. The most popular question was about reviews by institution of affiliation. So we don't allow multiple reviews. So as a rule, a researcher shall submit their research protocol to a REC of their institution of affiliation. However, if there is any justification as to why you don't want to apply to your institution of affiliation, you can send that to the UNCST. Then the second one was about compensation. The students were asked to, can they also provide compensation because they have limited money to compensate their research participants? And I was like, yes, you have to compensate. It's a requirement for all participants involved in research to be compensated. However, we know that students don't have enough money, but you can just provide in-kind compensation, like a refreshment, a bottle of soda. You can provide a bar of soap. You can provide 2 pieces of salt, something like that that you can afford according to your budget. But compensation for research is very important. Thank you very much.
Great. Can we have Prof. Nema? Prof. Nema, just one or two of the questions you've been responding to in the chat. Professor Nema? Okay, Dr. Moses Ochan, one or two questions.
Yes, so I have 2 questions here, and I think Dr. Helen already touched on one of them. The issue of annual approvals for PhD students that spend a long time on their programs. What do they do with the annual renewals? This is actually one of the common violations of ethics amongst graduate students, that you continue conducting a study with an expired REC approval. So please ensure that you read the approval letter. The approval letter is clear. It's actually written in bold that this approval is for 12 months. Beyond 12 months, it expires. Now you imagine you have the consent forms, in case you're using them, you're collecting data. The stamp on the consent form will have expired after 1 year. So please ensure that you, at the end of every year, if you must continue with your research, you apply for renewal. And then the second question is on the issue of the international students, East African students. So for the international students and the East African students, there are two components to that question. The first issue is that you are a Kenyan, a Nigerian, or whatever, and studying in Uganda, and you want to collect data back in your country. So you need to get the approval in the institution where you are studying, Makerere University, and also you get approval in your home institution. And that also applies in the reverse. If a Ugandan is studying in Kenya and wants to conduct a study in Uganda, get approval in the institution where you're studying from in Kenya, and also get approval in the institution where you are going to come to collect data. What we shall require here mostly is to ensure that you have a local supervisor and in-country supervisor that you will have to, that will oversee your researches within the country. Otherwise, for the case of the process is uniform. Whether you're outside the country or inside, you can submit your protocol from any part of this world. Just go to UNCST NREM system, you apply through that system.
Thank you. Over. Thank you very much, Dr. Moses Ochan. Professor Walakila? Professor Walakila?
I didn't get any questions, but someone asked about the reviewers or recs that take a lot of time to give feedback. Like I mentioned, that wouldn't be a good practice. If a rec takes too much time, normally they give you timelines when you'll get the feedback. If it is a regional review, it is also possible that you submit today when the meeting was conducted yesterday, and if they sit only twice in a month, then that means they would have to stick to their timeline. But it also depends on the type of protocol you have presented. If it is one that is expedited or fast track, then that one, there are different modalities for organizing maybe a smaller team or a full board, but at short notes to go through your proposal. So it depends. Also, you need to acquaint yourself on when you want your protocol to go through very fast, what type of protocol should you submit? Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much. Then Daniel, and as we finish up with Daniel, Dr. Mende, would you promote Zaid? Zaid has a burning question to Helen, which you cannot leave. Dr. Zaid is the coordinator. But let's have Daniel first, and then Professor Chikoma comes in also.
Thank you very much. I also had questions, but many of them have already been answered. I only want to talk about the systematic review, which somebody said is part of his or her PhD research, and whether that requires the approval. I think for the systematic reviews, basically relying on secondary data or what is already published, it wouldn't require approval. But then the way it is that you may not only be looking at systematic review. That systematic review part is embedded within a bigger study, so you may end up requiring the review for even the other parts. But if it is only systematic review, you may also want to contact or to seek for approval from a REC, because in that case, you'll get most likely the exemption, and when it comes to publishing, you will not be faced with the problems of proving that actually your work was submitted. Was cleared by a research ethics committee. Then the other one is the time when you have to submit your proposal. When is it timely, or your protocol? I think as soon as you start, like Professor Chan has mentioned, you start and go through the processes. The supervisor approves, the school approves, then at some point, like he stated, you submit it for REC approval. That should be there, and you should be able to factor that into your timing and also costs for your research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prof. Chikoma, and then we shall have Zaid. Prof. Chikoma? Prof. Chikoma, anything to respond to? You have been in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. I think I've not been able to go through all the questions, but I kind of saw some few, and I think think I will just summarize them around, I think most of the people that asked was around this question of navigating the use of AI in your research in scholarly writing, where I think there was a concern that I didn't give any practical demonstration, and also where someone can find the policy and so on. I should say one or two things in response to those issues that I picked quickly. There may be others, but if it is all around AI, first, the policy is a recent one and was approved last year. I think it's yet to be uploaded on the website, but we can always make arrangements to avail the draft to students and the provisions that are there in terms of the key issues that I mentioned when I was presenting, so that you can read for yourselves the guidelines on each of the elements that I pointed out. But secondly, as well, is we normally have a provision in the cross-cutting courses that we teach, a provision for covering issues of AI in the research. And we are soon having the cross-cutting course on advanced research methods. It will take place between 4th and I think 14th in May next month. So again, there will be a lot of time devoted to issues of AI in research, plus other trainings that from time to time we organize as the directorate. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Zaid, could you just, last one, just Zaid, just make the question and then we shall close it up.
Thank you, Prof. Wamala, for organizing this. Indeed, it's a true reflection of the partnership component of the directorate, which you do head. Mine goes to Helen. In July of last year, we submitted our protocol to Uganda National Council for Science and Technology on a project that is funded by the Wake Forest of the United States of America. And our PI is Professor Kimberly Water. Unfortunately, if
I don't know if it's on my side.
Professor is not very clear. Professor Zaid is not very clear.
Yeah. I think it should be on, but you've taken note of the question that I posted to you in the chat.
In the chat.
And not actually on your WhatsApp group, on your WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp. Okay, let me check the WhatsApp now.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm Prof. Sarasari. Are you with us?
Oh, yes, I am.
Great. Let's just have this responded to, and then you will invite you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to begin walking down to the Senate for my next meeting. So maybe I'll give them on
okay, our time is really quite fast spent, but maybe what you can do, you can just come in right now. We shall. I'll ask Helen to reach out to Dr. Zaid and then have that responded to. So, Professor Charlie, you are very much welcome to give us your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I start giving my closing remarks, I must say I'm impressed with what I've seen. The training was very, very good. I liked the attendance, that it hit the 500 mark and exceeded it. So I'd really like to applaud the people. So if I'm to begin with my remarks, the director DRIP, the director GT, graduate training, chairpersons and members of the RECs, distinguished facilitators, graduate students, ladies and gentlemen, I am very honored to deliver the closing remarks at this important workshop on navigating research ethics early, understanding RECs and ethical approval at Makerere University. Allow me at the outset to commend the Directorate of Research, Innovations and Partnerships in collaboration with the Directorate of Graduate Training for organizing this timely and impactful engagement. I also extend my sincere appreciation to all facilitators and participants for your active involvement and thoughtful contribution throughout the session. I know even now I've interfered some contributions and engagements, but I know you will come on after I leave. Ladies and gentlemen, today's discussions have reaffirmed a fundamental principle that research ethics is not an administrative formality, but a cornerstone of academic excellence and integrity. As a leading institution of higher learning, Makerere University is committed to ensuring that all research conducted under its auspices adheres to the highest ethical standards. The emphasis placed on early engagement with research ethics is particularly commendable. It's clear that a timely understanding of ethical requirements not only facilitates compliance, but also enhances the quality, credibility, and impact of graduate research. Starting right ensures that students are able to navigate their research journey with clarity, confidence, and responsibility. I wish to underscore 3 key takeaways for our graduate students. Okay? I wish to underscore 3 takeaways for our graduate students. First, take ownership of your research ethics responsibilities. While the university provides structures and guidance through recs and academic supervisors, the primary responsibility for ethical conduct rests with you as researchers. Upholding integrity in your work is essential to your academic and professional development. Second, integrate ethics throughout your research process. Integrate ethics throughout your research process. Ethical considerations should be embedded from the proposal stage through data collection and analysis to the dissemination of findings. This continuous approach ensures that your work meets both institutional and international standards. The third, seek guidance and comply with established processes. Engage your supervisors, consult the relevant recs, and make use of the support systems available within the university. Avoid shortcuts, as non-compliance can have serious implications for your research and academic progression. Maybe what we can also add there is avoid acts of fraud, because the research ethics is a very high global standard, and any violations on that line will not be taken lightly, even by administrators of the university. So beyond research, it also has, research fraud has implications on your conduct and disciplinary processes within the university. So dear participants or distinguished participants, as we continue to strengthen graduate training at Makerere University, we remain committed to fostering a culture of responsible conduct of research, supported by robust governance frameworks and continuous capacity building. The collaboration between our directorates and Research Ethics Committee is a testament to this commitment. I encourage you all to carry forward the knowledge and insights gained today and to apply them diligently in your respective research endeavors. In conclusion, I once again thank the organizers, facilitators, and participants for making this workshop a success. I wish you all the very best in your academic pursuits and in upholding the highest standards of research ethics. It's now my honor to declare this workshop officially closed. Thank you very much.
And once it is declared closed, we cannot say anything. Thank you very much, DVC.
No, you can close.
And thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prof.
Prof. Chair.
Yes.
I almost wanted to tell all panelists to put on their video and we take a group picture with the
great.
Yeah.
On until you have taken the picture.
Just a minute.
Let me go somewhere where you'll see the picture, where you'll see it properly.
Okay. And where the others? Yeah, you can see Professor Walachida here.
I think the light is better here.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me take Daniel here. Just a minute. I want to spotlight everyone. I need also to spotlight Moses. I also need to spotlight Helen. Grace, please take that picture as I also take it. Grace, just a minute.
Because here we don't smile.
Mm.
Because everyone is looking too serious for my life.
Yes, they're smiling.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank
you
you.
very much. I've finished taking the picture.
Bye-bye.
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 Thumbs up.